Respond to and give us your thoughts on the TRO granted by the judge that basically prevents.
It's a point we've made over and over again. This is totally unnecessary. If you want to fight crime, this is diversion of crime, talent, people fighting crime, and a diversion of law enforcement from what they can be doing in our neighborhoods to make them safer. This political theater may have a lot of opportunities for television and such, but it doesn't get the job done of fighting crime. I couldn't agree more with Senator Duckworth. The resources that have been available through Washington have helped us bring down the violent crime rate, and we've got to continue that effort. Shouldn't spare anything when it comes to this effort. But the diversion of so many resources in law enforcement to Broadview, Illinois is an illustration of resources that should be spent in the community to make it safer. I'll work with any administration to reduce crime, but I certainly won't abide by this whole approach of mass deportation. Taking innocent people out of their beds in the middle of the night, tying children's hands behind them, and taking them out to be interrogated. What is the life of that child going to be like from this point forward? Is anybody asking these basic questions? I'm afraid they're not doing as much as they should. Senator Duckworth and I are honored to be here today, and I turn it over to her.
Thank you, Dick. I couldn't agree with the ruling more in that it's been clear, not just here in Chicago, but also in the ruling in Portland, that the Trump administration's claims that local law enforcement is not capable of maintaining peace during the civil disobedience, with people out expressing themselves. That's not true. Our state police, our local law enforcement, our county sheriffs, our village police are doing their jobs, and we should let them do their jobs. The Trump administration has diverted over $800 million that Congress appropriated in a bipartisan way in order to fund violence prevention efforts, child protective services, also for training for police officers. They've actually diverted those funds away from law enforcement. If they cared about crime, they would put that money back where it belongs, with our law enforcement officers, so that they can do their jobs. But it is not appropriate to militarize our cities. It is not appropriate to activate National Guard troops and send them into our cities. Our National Guard men and women are doing a fantastic job. But you know what? They sign up to be tank drivers. They should be practicing driving tanks. They should be practicing to defend America against our enemies around the world. And that's what they would rather be doing. So what I've been saying to protesters, to people of Chicago, be kind to the guardsmen and women. They're here against their will. They're here because they were activated to come here. Maintain your protest. Say what you need to say. Do it peacefully. But I condemn what is happening with ICE, the work that they're doing, snatching people off the streets, shooting priests in the head who were guilty simply of a crime of praying, throwing smoke grenades in front of elementary schools. This is not America. This is not what this democracy is about. We just want to go in and look at this facility and see what the conditions are, and they will not let us in. It is shameful. You don't run and hide if you're proud of what you're doing. That's what ICE is doing right now.
Right here. Alex Gabriel, News Nation. What does it signal to you, the fact, News Nation, sir? What does it signal to you, the fact that the immigration officers and agents behind those closed doors aren't letting you in to see what's happening there?
This is the fourth time we've asked in the last several weeks. We started at the Great Lakes Naval Training Station. All along the way, we just want to be briefed on what they're doing, what their resources are, and what's happening in the streets. They've refused to tell us this information. I've done this job for a few years now. I've never had this kind of stonewalling by any presidential administration. Something's going on in there that they don't want us to see. I don't know what it is, but all Americans should be asking the same question. What is it? Can you justify it under the Constitution?
Senator,
yeah, go ahead. No, right here in the green, right here in the green jacket. Go ahead, yeah.
Looking at the president's tactics thus far, we've had ICE deployed into Chicago, we have the National Guard deployed into those cities. We had now this restraining order, and now people feel while troops are expected to start deploying or patrolling in Memphis today. Like, looking at this just kind of continually whack-a-mole style tactic that you had to employ to try to stop this, where does this end?
Well, let me make it clear what the Trump administration is trying to do. They are trying to normalize having troops on our streets. And they're doing this all across this great nation. They are trying to normalize an extension of presidential power that is not appropriate under the Constitution. They're trying to negate posse comitatus by redefining, by by trying to define what is happening and claiming that there's an insurrection, that we are under invasion. These are language that are used on the Posse Comitatus, that are used within our Constitution, that they are perverting in order to keep troops, normalize troops on our streets. What are they trying to do? He's doing this to make sure that he can actually have these troops on our streets when it comes to elections. And we're not going to let that happen, because it is not normal, it is not constitutional, and it is against the law. It's been ruled to be so in Los Angeles, that you cannot do this, that you can't just activate troops. The stuff that he's doing...
U.S. Code 12406, yes you can.
The stuff that he's doing is against the law and has been ruled so in federal courts.
Senator Durbin, you said you would work with any administration to stop crime. The president has said that he's willing to work with you. Why not take him up on his offer?
The very point made by Senator Duckworth. When we look at his budget, he ends up cutting the very programs that our police have asked for and what they need. You know, they have a tough time recruiting new policemen. They're offering $50,000 incentives for those who sign up for ICE. What about our local policemen? We need more on the streets and more doing the professional work there. Let's put the federal resources in with the state and local resources and do it together in a cooperative fashion, not force it down our throats of sending in troops from Texas.
So you don't think he's sincere?
No, I don't.
No, not at all. The $800 million that was appropriated was done so in a bipartisan way that he has now diverted away from what it was intended to do, which is to help local law enforcement.
What about the federal
Last
question?
Has been sent home, or are they still deployed? Are they still at the Army base in Elwood? Where are they right now?
The court ruling limits their activity. I'd have to look at the ruling in detail, but they spell out the cities that they can travel between for the time being under the TRO.
What about the federal officers that are being assaulted by the protesters? Should they be treated the same way as the J6ers that assaulted federal officers?
Can I ask, so I'd like your reaction to the split screen here. The reduction in force notices have gone out across federal law enforcement. My first question, do you have any idea what the scope of those layoffs are? And then what is your reaction to the split screen? We're seeing federal workers laid off across the board while we're seeing National Guard deployed in Memphis. We're seeing ICE agents working on the ground, ICE agents who are not getting paid soon. What is your reaction to the split screen? And then if you have any information on the scope of the risks?
I don't have information on the scope of the risk, but we know that the Trump administration has been targeting federal workers. They've been firing federal workers from their first days on since they took office. Remember that they committed to firing 83,000 people from the Department of Veterans Affairs to deny veterans access to the care that they deserved and they've earned. They had a plan to basically fire 83,000 workers at the VA by the end of this year. They fired more veterans from their federal jobs than anywhere else in the nation's history. Donald Trump has been wanting to do this, right? He's been firing federal workers. And again, this is because of his own personal agenda. He told us what he was going to do with Project 2025, and they're carrying it out. And what we need to do is to push back as hard as we can, and we're doing that in Washington. We're in a shutdown right now. We're fighting to raise, to force them to not allow our insurance rates to be raised. That's what's going to happen to millions of families across this country.
Mark October 27th on your calendar. That is the deadline day for the insurance companies, health insurance companies, to notify the families in Illinois about how much their health insurance premium is going up because of the big, beautiful budget bill that the president has signed into law. It's going to be dramatic. Average 114%. Your health insurance bill, if you're on americahealthcare.gov, is going to go up 114%. That is a hardship for families struggling to get by. That's part of the conversation. So if you want to split the screen, there's a third split in it. We want to make sure that these families are protected from these increases in health insurance premiums.
Senator,
A federal judge ruled that this fence would come down, and you thanked protesters for being out here every day. Your thoughts on the fence coming down? Do you know the timeline for that? I know proposals are due today.
I don't know what the timeline is, but what my thoughts are, I urge the protesters to remain peaceful. I urge the protesters to exercise their First Amendment rights, but to do it in a peaceful way and to respect law enforcement officers as they tell them what they need to do in order to keep everybody safe, but also allow them to express their opinions.
Senator, the president for weeks prior to sending the National Guard here had threatened to do it. He made good on that threat. He's now threatened to use the Insurrection Act to go around the courts. If that happens, what is the next step?
The courts are the next step. Quite honestly, we're in the minority in Congress, limited opportunity to change policy. And of course, the president is going to do what he wants to do, regardless of the Constitution. The courts are the last step to stand up to him and tell him you can't break the law, you can't ignore the Constitution.
Thank you, everyone.